Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today for migrating from Cisco Umbrella to DNSFilter, a complete walkthrough. My name's Corey Underdown. I'm DNSFilter's Senior Content Manager. And before I get into introductions, I do just have a little bit of housekeeping today. The session will be recorded, so you will receive a recording in your inbox this afternoon. Also, as you can see on the right side of your screen, there's a chat box that you can use to discuss the content with your fellow attendees, as well as send in any questions that come up for you during the presentation. So we'll be answering all questions during our Q&A at the end. We actually have a fun little contest in hopes that you do ask all of your burning questions. So our presenters will be voting on the best question asked today, and then the person who asked it will be sent a die-cast DNSFilter number 28 IndyCar. So to kick off the chat, can you please share where you're tuning in from to join us? And then I am going to go ahead and get into the introductions. So we have Carl Levine, Jacob Phillips, Richie Wade, and Brian Gillstrap. And I am going to go ahead and pop off camera and let Carl take it from here.
Thanks, Corey, and welcome everyone. All right, so today we're going to be going over what's going on with the world of Cisco Umbrella and what's happened in their ecosystem and how DNSFilter can help. So we're going to talk about Cisco Umbrella's roaming client end of life and what that means for you. We'll be doing a comparison of Cisco Umbrella and DNSFilter, going over how to quickly and easily migrate to DNSFilter, what DNSFilter customers have said about migrating. We'll talk about our award-winning and just awesome support team, and I'm so glad to be joined by two of the members of that team here today, as well as Richie from sales engineering team, and then we'll do a little Q&A, and we're seeing all sorts of people. Hey, Patrick in Andover, Mass. I'm waving at you from Haverhill over here, buddy. That's great. So, all right, let's just get right into it. So, what does the Cisco roaming client end of life mean for you? So, to those of you who, kind of watch the space, Cisco Umbrella was born out of the acquisition of OpenDNS back in 2015. This has been something that, Cisco has kind of taken under their wing. They've fostered that ecosystem for a number of years. There have been a couple of different announcements over the years about the end of life of the actual, OpenDNS legacy pricing. And, we kind of did some stuff around that last year here at DNSFilter, but this is a biggie. So basically what's happening now is if you have the Cisco Umbrella roaming client installed on an endpoint today, you're going to be forced to upgrade that to the Cisco AnyConnect endpoint, which means that as such, you're going to be part of the Cisco AnyConnect product. For you, that may mean increased prices. You may have to buy into a new contract. One way or another, you're ripping and replacing a roaming client. So today we're going to talk about how, maybe this time we don't buy the wrong DNS. We go with DNSFilter this time. So I'm glad you're all here, and we can go to the next slide and talk about a little more about this. So then there's DNSFilter, right? So currently we're the world's fastest DNS resolver. If you go on DNSperf.com, take a look at the stats. We're leapfrogging other public DNS, including Cisco Umbrella, by a pretty significant margin. We have 30 million monthly users. We do about 89 billion queries a day. That works out to about 2.7 trillion DNS requests a month. And DNS is one half the name, filter is the other, right? So we are categorizing 19.5 million new domains each month, which is adding to a roster of fully qualified domain names that we see under our purview, approaching about 1 billion at this point. We're at 950 million currently, which it's just a short hop, skip, and a jump to get to the 1B. And, to that end, I mean, we have 179, servers in 69 different cities worldwide, which means that no matter where you are in the world, when you install our roaming client, no matter where your users are in the world, they're going to have the fastest connection to the DNSFilter edge. And when I say the fastest, our nominal latency in North America is about 6.63 milliseconds currently. And then again, to the filter part, 61% of our threats are uniquely identified by the technology underpinning DNSFilter, which we'll be explaining a little more about here in this webinar. But most importantly, we're finding and accurately categorizing threats more than 7 days faster than Cisco Umbrella. All right, and I believe Jacob is going to take us through and tell us a little more about what makes DNSFilter work.
Yeah, so the
Jacob,
backbone
take
of
it away.
DNSFilter is Web Shrinker. It is our machine learning tool that does most of our categorization. Web Shrinker does over actually 1 million new domains daily. In addition to traditional categories, Web Shrinker collects data about so the following special types of domains. You got new domains and very new domains. The reason we categorize those quickly is we want to be very proactive with identifying and categorizing these types of domains. It adds as a vital layer to our defense against emergent threats. This is a very crucial category for us to scan and protecting specifically against like zero-day vulnerabilities. After that, obviously, phishing and deceptive domains. This is standard probably across all of DNS filtering platforms, but this is something obviously we also do. It's integral to preventing identity theft and unauthorized access, thereby safeguarding both company and customer data, which is very important, obviously. Malicious domains, another standard one. These are domains specifically designed to basically decimate malware or enact other harmful activities. Their early identification enables us to immediately neutralize potential threats, contributing to a more robust cybersecurity posture. Proxy and filter avoidance. This is probably one you won't see much of on other platforms, but we basically use this one mainly because there's always going to be ways to get around cybersecurity products, and proxy and filter avoidance is obviously one of them. So we have this category on here as another proactive measure. That way, your clients or any malicious actors just can't go around DNSFilter and access whatever domains they want to access anyway. And then content servers. While in most cases, content servers are just doing their everyday jobs, what they're supposed to do. Sometimes they can be misused for hosting malicious content, or they can be hijacked and manipulated into hosting malicious content. So that's a very important category that we actually see a lot of in support. I know Brian G can probably vouch for me there. We see a lot of those coming as well. And a big thing that we also do here at the end is categorizing domains that are not just in English, but 30 or 29 other languages, so 30 total. This gives us a very comprehensive layer, global layer to our cybersecurity measures. This ensures that language barriers do not compromise how effective our product is for threat detection and preventing strategies. And then I'll pass it back on to, I think, Richie, right? I think you got this one from here.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. So so now we're going to run you through a brief sort of framework of what you want to do and how you want to do it when you do your migration to DNSFilter. Now, we've kind of made this curtailed specifically to Umbrella, but it's going to be roughly the same no matter what vendor you're moving from. You're usually going to start with getting your old information exported out. So you want to export your allow and your block lists, because those usually are entries that will make sure that your network is operating properly. So we want to get those exported from your old vendor first. Then we'll go ahead and create comparable content filtering policies in the DNSFilter side. So essentially, we've actually have some more information to show you where it'll make it very easy for you to map those policies. Once you have the content filtering policies created, then you can move on to importing the block list, the allow and block list that you exported from the Umbrella interface there. So you'll import those into the policy. Then you'll be able to create your block page. You'll be able to activate that policy and that block page when you create your site, and then you're removing the Umbrella roaming client and you're pushing out the DNSFilter roaming client. So we'll go through each one of these steps in a little bit more in depth here. So first step is exporting your policy lists. So Cisco calls their allow and block list destination lists, right? So this can include allow and blocked, but if you navigate to your policies, policy components, and then your destination lists, you will be able to generate a CSV file off of these entries. This will be one domain per line, so it'll be really easy for you to just take this directly and import it when the time comes for your migration. Awesome. So once you have your allow and block list or your destination lists exported, then you're going to come and create a content filtering policy. So DNSFilter, we give you 39 different content categories and 9 different threat categories. We realize that the categories aren't going to match up exactly to Umbrella's categories. So what we've done is we've actually created a support article that will map the Umbrella Open DNS categories to the relevant DNSFilter category. So you can use that support article to make it really easy to mirror your policies when you go through the setup there. Once you picked out your content filtering and your threats, then you can move on to importing your allow and block lists. So the allow and block lists are pretty much the same way, where you have that green import button on our dashboard. So you'll be able to click that button, you'll browse to find that CSV that you created from the Umbrella side to import all of your listings here. Now, keep in mind that there's not a special CSV template required, so you can just do this with one domain per line, but we do limit you to 2,000 entries per import. So there's no overall amount of listings you can have, but just we limit 2,000 at a time. Now, I will say we're running less than a 1% false positive rate, so really should not be that important for you to have every single domain listed in those allow and block lists. But we want to make sure that we're migrating you over and not causing any sort of production issues for your users. Awesome. So our next step is to create our block pages. So we make this really easy. It's a semi-customizable format here where you're naming the block page. You get to name the organization. You can put in a notice email, and then you can upload your own GIF or graphic here. Now the bottom example here, this is what we use for our own internal protection here. That's our CEO, Ken, pointing a banana at us. So, you know, we like to have fun with them, and you can have fun with them too. I mean, there's a whole lot of graphics that you could do. Doesn't have to be something that a user hates to see. So just make sure that you put in a good notice email. That way, if they feel like they've reached the block page in error, they can click the click here and they can reach out to you. Reach out to your team, a ticket system, a group, whatever email address you want to put in there. Awesome. So once we have our policies created, we have our block page created, now we're ready to actually move on to deployment. So with deployment, the first thing we're going to do, doesn't matter how we deploy out, we're going to create a site. So with the site creation, we do also have an option for bulk import sites. So it's pretty simple, where you're just naming the site, putting in a physical location, picking a policy and a block page. But what if you have, 100 sites or maybe 200 sites? We don't want you to have to do this manually. So we do have a CSV that we can provide you that you can fill out, send it back to our team. Brian or Jacob, very smart guys, they'll get that imported very quickly for you. And then you'll have all of your sites created with all of the addressing information if you're doing network deployments. If you're doing roaming client deployments, then we'll talk about that here in the next couple of steps here. Go ahead, Jacob, if you wanted to tackle the
so
script.
The theme of the day for DNSFilter and getting migrate over from Umbrella to DNSFilter is just making it easy, right? And one of the ways we in support have helped with that is we're just going to give you this PowerShell script, and it's just going to, you just put in a couple information in it, and it's just going to run the script, and it's going to do the rest for you. It's a tried and true method. We've actually have already been using it for a lot of our clients, and there's not a lot of changes you have to make. There are more changes you can make to it once you actually have the script. But here in the parameters section, I have just the important ones that you would really need to look at. And the most important one is probably going to be right here, is your site secret key. That's just going to be your network key that you will have in your dashboard. There's actually, you know, a little feature that you can just copy it from there, and then you can just paste it right into the script. That retry count is just going to be how many times the script's going to actually try or retry to install the DNSFilter agent, which right now I think at default is just going to be 3. The retry interval, that's just how many seconds between each try. Default there is going to be 30. Everything here is basically the default settings. Where it gets a little bit tricky and where you might need to make some changes depending on you know, what version of the client you have is the DNS agent name. The DNSFilter agent, if it's labeled as that, that's just our standard version. Whereas you will want to change that to be called DNS space agent if you have the MSP white label version of it. And that's just going to be the same thing for the DNS agent URL. You're just going to want to make sure where it says DNSFilter _ agent, you're going to want to make sure it just says DNS _ agent. And then the rest of that, I believe, is just the same. DNS out file, that's just going to be your DNS output file. And all these notes, and it goes through the entire script. You're going to have like little gray notes there. It's just going to walk you along the way. So if you do get confused on any part of it, those will help guide you. But it's literally just about as simple as that for the script. It's not that hard to work on. We tried to, you know, purposely make that easy for everybody to understand.
And then you, of course, have the all-important, you know, what are customer interactions? How do they feel when they actually get on the product? How do they see it, you know, in comparison to Umbrella and other DNS filtering providers that are out there? As you can see here, we've got we have a few different opinions that our customers have on Umbrella and their comparisons to it. So we've definitely seen some great feedback from our customers about how quick and easy it is to set up, you know, whether you're doing that roaming client setup where you're ripping out umbrellas and putting ours, or if you're just doing a simple network deployment with putting your egress IP and then putting in our forwarders to your router or firewall setup, depending. One of the big parts of our product that we do love to tout is just how responsive that we like to be with our product team. If you guys do have, you know, those feature requests or enhancements to our product, we have a full candy board where you can submit your own feature request or comment on other people's requests, you know, to see how, hey, this would work in my environment perfectly, or actually, no, that doesn't make sense. Moving on from that, our support stats with how that functions. We've had a very nice response time here. These are our statistics from the last 6 months. And CSAT scores. We really do pride ourselves in being sure when you reach out to us that we're getting back to you in a timely manner. Your time's important. Our time's important. We want to be sure that when you're seeing those issues, whether it's a configuration issue or you're seeing maybe a miscategorized domain, even though it's unlikely, we're happy to take a look at that and get back to you quickly. Quality support matters, and we want to be there for you. So if you ever do have questions, you know, whether you're in a trial period, you want to test us out, please reach out to us at support as well. You know, test us out, make sure that we're living up to our word, you know, via chat, email at support@dnsfilter.com.
That brings us into the Q&A, which a lot of you are really gunning for that number 28 diecast, because boy, there have been a bunch of questions here. So Corey, do you chime back in for this one, or are we flying with this one? All right.
Looks like
So first of all, first question.
Good.
I was just going to say the first question that just came up. So Tim asked, how many threat sources do you curate for your customers?
Well, so I would say that we do about 90 third-party feeds, but we, you know, catch the majority of our categorization and threat detection is through our own in-house machine learning engine. So those third-party feeds are really just spot checking to make sure that we're on target and that we're still beating Cisco by 7 days there. So, you know, but yeah, so about 90 is your answer there, Tim.
Great. Can you discuss your uptime being lower than Umbrella within DNSPerf? So I'll field this one. So DNSPerf is an independent third party. They leverage a number of different public resolvers to make sure that they are performant and that they are doing their things. Now, what does tend to happen in various parts of the world, they run their tests at a pretty high frequency, and they're constantly hitting different resolvers, constantly, making those requests. For us here at DNSFilter, as I explained earlier in the presentation, the Anycast network that we have is a dual diverse design, which means that for every one of those data centers that I mentioned that are in the 69 cities globally, what we're doing there is we actually have different peering arrangements with different ISPs. So there's a lot of other stuff going on inside the inner workings of the internet. And for the uninitiated, it's kind of like when you're, on a commute, you're driving somewhere, the highway is like the most obvious way to get from point A to point B. But sometimes what ends up happening is somebody goes and hits a guardrail, and then all 8 lanes of the highway shut down. You got looky-loos, you got all this other stuff. But, if you're leveraging something like Waze, for instance, in your car, and it's like, hey, if you jump off at Fells Way, you can scoot Route 28 out to Medford and you can get where you need to go. Shout out to all my Boston area peeps that just got that reference. But ultimately what DNSPerf sees is very much within their own sort of view. For our own purposes, we've been able to maintain a much higher, uptime rate, based on the way that everything operates. So it is a matter of context in that case. But that is a really great question. And I feel like, DNSPerf is really good at kind of like showing like resolution speed. Uptime may be a little more, subjective in that case.
All right. How is DNSFilter deployed? I'll answer this. Various ways, really. So I would say we have the network-based deployment where you can deploy it, maybe on a firewall or a router, or you can set it up as forwarders on the domain controller. We kind of reference all of those as network-based deployments. You have all of those options available to you in addition to our roaming clients, which this has the most of our feature parity into it, where you deploy to individual endpoints. And what you do is you have the ability to even connect the DNSFilter dashboard to your AD environment via an LDAP tool to sync your users and your groups. And then you can do individual policy assignments by user, group, device. And then you also get that per user reporting. So you get more insight to what each individual user is doing or what they're requesting in their DNS requests from day to day.
Right on. And then what if you have no DNS filter? Well, go right to DNSFilter.com, click on start your 14-day trial. There's 2 good times to set up DNS filtering in general. Last year or right now. So get on that.
For sure. Definitely need something in there. It's DNS filtering is just such a great foundation to any sort of security stack or approach because we just play well with other vendors, right? We just do our job. We don't really make a big fuss about it. And we just add layered protection that you so desperately need in any sort of security approach.
Okay, Jerry, please address DNSFilter as a part of an edge SASE solution. For example, firewalls are often aware of Umbrella and ready to use it at the edge to control all DNS traffic traversing through the firewall or proxy. I am tasked now with doing this on a Cisco ASA and FireW Power firewalls, but would rather stitch this edge into DNSFilter. Okay, well, and maybe Richie, we can kind of tag team this one, but I think that we've seen this in the wild with some of the deals that we've worked, and ultimately, if you change the forwarders to us instead of Cisco, then you achieve that. How easily your Cisco solution will let you do that and not use Umbrella, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a crapshoot, it seems like, from our point of view, because we just don't have that access to know what versions can and can't do this and what versions will and will not have an issue. So we definitely encourage you to test it. We're definitely here to help you get through any sort of testing. But as far as exact answers, can't really give you that.
Exactly. Cool beans. All right, next one. Jerry again. Also, please comment on edge filtering to capture and rewrite DNS over HTTP and DNS over TLS to prevent corporate DNS bypass.
Fine.
Well, we do handle DOH in an interesting way because we're aware of the vast majority of DOH, providers out there. So we will actually take and shunt that back over a proper DNS channel when that is instantiated.
Yeah, DOT right now. I think we're working on DOH, right?
Yeah, DOH, but DOT we actually offer as a alternative to just vanilla UDP 53, which can certainly help out in some situations where your ISP may be doing some transparent proxying. Dan says, currently, the Umbrella RC stands down when connected to a network to allow for local DNS resolution. What does DNSFilter do? Well, DNSFilter lets you define your local resolvers and domains right in the dashboard. So when you push those agents out, it pushes a configuration to your endpoints, kind of like a host file, and then allows you to then resolve those internal names. So if you're doing anything with like a split tunnel VPN or situation like that, the agent itself is aware of what is upstream. So you're good to go there.
It's important to note too, if you go off of that network and maybe that website resolves publicly, we will still resolve it properly because we're not going to be able to resolve it internally. So we still try to do it externally or publicly as a failover and keep that operation sort of dynamic for you.
Nice. Now, what if you've embraced the Meraki security appliances and umbrellas applied to the appliance? There's got to be a way to change that at the appliance level. I couldn't imagine there being any network, like commercially available thing that would lock somebody into one ecosystem. That just seems wild to me. But I would have to do the research to, suss that out.
I mean, we've definitely deployed on a few Meraki appliances before, though, so it can be done.
Meraki's not a bad piece of hardware. I don't think they lock you into a specific ecosystem though. So maybe they
might not make it too easy for you to move out either. So
there it is. Yeah, definitely run into that with other AnyConnect products. So can we set an expiration time for block pages? For instance, having a temporary block page display during maintenance times. So block pages run appurtenant with deployments. So what you can do there is actually use our filtering schedule to enforce a policy during a specific time and then have that block page enacted in concert with that.
What I'll say too is you can just upload a JPEG of the important information and add that as the block page graphic. So then you have all of that pertinent information.
See, this is why we keep you around, Richie. You got all these great ideas.
Try to do something here.
All right. Jerry's back. Understanding that operational technology environments may not allow us to allow use of an add-on tool like edge filtering or capturing and security is still the norm. For example, power controls and telecom telemetry, still these processes need secure DNS, not just category filters, but real nasties like command and control, domain filtering, etc. Please talk about the deployment in OT with edge security doing the lifting as opposed to client software. That's a network level deployment, or our relay, which is a DNS virtual appliance that can be stood up within a network that gives you the granularity to see the internal IP address of the device that may be making those rogue requests. Awesome. Howard, do you have any scripts or best practices on how-tos for ConnectWise Automate?
We have a specific one for ConnectWise Automate in our knowledge base public facing. So we have that. We also have some general deployment documentation that will walk you through if you want to push it out through command line, GPO, PowerShell script. I think we have a PGP install. So we have a bunch of different options. You can pick your flavor and we'll make it happen for you.
Fantastic. All right. Next question. It's thinking. There we go. And off of Howard's request, how about Datto RMM?
Yep. So I would say you can utilize our PowerShell script. There's literally one field that you need to adjust. That's the site secret key. And then you're in business there. So haven't really heard of anybody having issues using that PowerShell script specifically for Datto RMM. So you should be in business there.
Right on. That's great stuff. Your agents are available for Windows and Mac OS. What about Linux and various cloud vendors? We would want to install agents there as well. So yeah, we do have it for Windows and Mac. For Linux, there's a few different flavors of Linux OS out there. We have not had a pervasive use case come to us at the scale necessary to try and engineer something. However, we do have the DNS relay itself, which can run in a Dockerized container on that Linux endpoint if you had that need. Now, when it comes to cloud vendors, I can say that I have successfully made our agent run on Amazon Workspaces. I've not tried it on a Google virtual machine. In Azure, we do work on Windows 11. We do have it on our roadmap. The internal DNS structure at Azure is, as I like to call, funhouse mirrors. So there is some weird adapter conflict that happens with our agent, and we are investigating that, and it is on our roadmap to get that figured out, because we know that typically people that like to use the Windows OS like to use the oldest possible version they can to keep everything kind of working all nicely, and then like when it comes time to finally make the jump to the next OS, they make the jump. So that's just that's my 20 plus years in IT kind of rearing its ugly head. So I guess now we got another question from Choi here about the Meraki stuff. So he's +1 in agreement with Dan. Says, I'm assuming I have to turn Umbrella off the firewall and force DNS requests to DNS filters. Is there an advantage to doing this on the SSID side? Well, there's always an advantage, right? You want to be able to segregate the traffic that maybe students would use versus staff. And I actually just helped implement a school district. It's moving off of another solution that's not Cisco Umbrella, but they are moving towards DNSFilter as a solution. So we do have ways of doing split network deployments behind a NAT. So we can basically go and say, hey, listen, students and staff get this policy, and it's these specific IP addresses versus staff gets other IP addresses. You splay out the VLANs and just kind of say, all right, great, like this VLAN gets this set of IPs, this one gets another, and you're off to the races. Cool. If the RC agent is installed to all stations, laptops, and PCs, are you able to differentiate the policies to be different between the two, permanently on the network versus the roamer? So, Richie, I've been doing a lot of talking. Maybe
I was
Jacob or Brian,
going to say, tag me in there, Carl. I don't want to stop your flow. You had a good thing going, but yeah. I'll definitely take this one. So we do report the host name on each individual roaming client. So you'll be able to tell the difference between your desktop and your laptop. So you can give your desktop device a specific policy, and then you can give a user another policy. That user policy will always override the device policy, but you have a bunch of different options there where you can just give one device a specific policy if it's the desktop, and then you can give the laptop a roamer policy so they have a little bit more flexibility to browse where they need to.
Good deal. And, there we go. All right. Howard asked, how does DNSFilter handle RDS and Citrix? Umbrella uses the virtual appliance and connects with FMC. What is the DNSFilter equivalent?
Yeah, so I would say we have a virtual appliance as well. We would pretty much operate in the same sort of way that the Umbrella RC does, or the Umbrella virtual appliance does, where you will create your site, you'll get that site secret key and download a configuration file from our side that you will adjust and use that with one of our images to deploy the relay. But the whole process takes you maybe about 10-20 minutes, and again, we have it all documented step by step, so there's not going to be any sort of ambiguity. Sorry, kind of brain stuttered there. When you're going through that setup, so we'll take you from every step of the way there.
Great.
That was our
the money question.
I will say we bill off a user, right? So that being said, if a user has a desktop and a laptop and you have the roaming client deployed on both, that counts as one user. So, usually it's whatever you have least of. So whether it be users or devices, maybe you have 4 devices and 10 users all sharing that device. Well, then it would be 4. It wouldn't be 10 users, of course. So whatever you have least of, but in general, we're pretty relaxed when it comes to billing. If there's an issue, we will reach out to you. We don't give you a surprise bill. We don't shut your service off, none of that stuff. So we like to reach out to you, have a conversation, and maybe it's just something that we're not understanding about your use case. So, that's the approach that we'll take first if there's any sort of billing discrepancies.
Billing with empathy.
Absolutely.
Okay, one main question from Corey says, why is DNSFilter so awesome? Winning question right here.
Oh, it's a lot to unpack there, but, I'll say partly because of these 2 guys in our webinar right now, the 2 support guys. I mean, they keep the support level so high for our customers and are so thrilled about it that, they just keep coming back, and we have loyal customers because of that, because we take care of them. That's something that Cisco, I haven't really heard anybody say, hey, Cisco really took care of me in a support issue. So, that's something that they're saying about us.
Right on. Okay. Next question from Steven. Is there a similar virtual appliance provided by DNSFilter similar to the OpenDNS virtual appliance? Is it needed? We use virtual appliances for better reporting inside of OpenDNS. And yeah, actually, so one of the key differences, and I don't think we highlighted this enough in the actual presentation, but in order to align with Active Directory or Azure AD, we have a sync tool that runs independently of the roaming client. But the roaming client itself, unlike the Cisco solution, uses eDNS client subnet data about each endpoint. So we see the logged in user, we see what domain they're attached to, all that other happy stuff. And the sync tool, which you would go and run separately and configure and basically say, hey, these are the groups of users I want to pull over. These are the users, these are their OUs, etc. That actually gets imported into our dashboard, and the roaming client itself does all of the arbitration of like who is the user that's logged in. So you don't need to use the virtual appliance in that same stead. You only need it on our side if you're looking to do very specific, internal, external DNS splitting within a network, so that you can make that distinction, and then you get internal IP data about the endpoints that are making the requests. All right. How would a company that has Umbrella Client integrated with Cisco AnyConnect migrate to DNSFilter?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially just spinning up service, getting your dashboard configured, and then uninstalling the old with the new, or having us, troubleshoot any sort of split tunnel issues if there are any that arise with AnyConnect. I've seen plenty of times where we're running split tunnel perfectly fine, and then I've seen other issues where we're running split tunnel, and there might be an issue where we need to adjust the AnyConnect configuration, or push out a registry edit, something like that. But if that happens, that's the good thing about our support team, is that we have somebody that you can rely on that can give you the good information that'll help you get connected there.
Right on. Okay, next question popping up here. Can we integrate third-party applications or ticketing systems with DNSFilter to streamline the handling of user requests from block pages?
Yeah, right. We could totally do that. And really, anything that you can do from our dashboard, you can really do via API. So we're an API-first company. So you'll have all of those options to be able to pull reports, or if you wanted to pull device information, you can pull that information pretty easily.
Right on. Oh, hey, Corey.
I had a little technical difficulty, but I'm here to rescue you from reading all of the.
That's good. These people have heard a lot of me and Richie's pleasing baritone here. So
I am here. Is there any integration with FortiClient?
So we don't really have a direct integration, but I mean, we do play well with FortiClient. So, like I said, split tunnel would work the best, allowing us to do the resolution, and the FortiClient can handle the traffic.
Awesome. This next one, what are your thoughts when you compare DNSFilter versus Infoblox Blocks One threat defense? Apart from the threat intelligence acting as RPZ and content filter, is there any protection from DNS tunneling to prevent data exfiltration?
So our platform can help inform when there's attempts to tunnel or to exfiltrate data, because we're going to see many, failed attempts to get out and actually exact that. However, that's, the extent to which that we operate in that space.
Right, from Richard, would roaming clients also be installed on desktops at a static location in order to get actual PC names reporting into the DNSFilter portal? Is that required?
So it would be required to get the device information or the device name, but you could do a network deploy. If you're not too worried about reporting and you're just worried about protection, you can do a network deploy, and it's not required for the roaming client at that point.
Perfect. Jerry is back with, does DNSFilter report out user reports tied to Active Directory login, and is a proxy server needed to get that binding in place between user and sites? Cisco provides a web proxy for this, and we discovered we had block reports based on IP and not based on user.
Yeah, so we touched on this earlier. So this is that Active Directory integration I spoke about. So the roaming client does this natively, and when you have the sync tool in the mix, it then aligns it to that AD structure, whether you're on premise or in the cloud.
Perfect. This question, I actually have something that I'm going to pop up that can help here. We have something down in the left corner. If you click on that, you can see the G2 comparison report, but the question was also, is there a Gartner or Forrester report to see a comparison with other competitors? So that one answers that. That's my contribution today.
My hero.
And then per user reporting might be a breach for GDPR in some countries, I reckon. I don't know if anyone.
Yep, we got a button for that. That will obscure that information from the UI.
Perfect. Can you integrate with a telco distribution based on Calyx for edge glass distribution?
Jerry, I think you and I got to follow up after this. So we have a guy on our team that handles those larger OEM and like telco relationships. We do actually power a few larger ISPs internationally. So I'd be happy to have that conversation. We can follow up after this.
Perfect. It's a lot of questions. I got to scroll pretty far to find them all. Second.
Hey, everybody wants that diecast.
I know. That's clearly good giveaway. Umbrella is not supported on servers as DNSFilter supported. How do you handle multiple users on the same endpoint, such as RDS servers or even PCs using fast user switching?
Yeah, so for that, we kind of talked about our virtual appliance relay to handle those RDS environments. There are some virtual environments that will work with the roaming client on Windows 11, but for the most part, what you would do is utilize the virtual appliance relay there. We have an Azure cloud image, we have a VMware image, we have a couple of binaries, so we have a lot of different options for you to deploy with.
Perfect. This one, Umbrella is incompatible with the per app VPN in VMware's Workspace ONE system for Windows clients. Has DNSFilter done any testing with this type of scenario?
I don't know. We've seen that specific VPN come up much in our travels, Rich?
I have not. Wondering if Brian.
I was trying to think. I don't think I've seen that one specifically in support yet. No. Unfortunately.
Something new to test.
Always is.
Can DNSFilter work with computers with Quick enabled in their browser?
Ooh, we had talked about this last year, and I'm not sure if that went anywhere. We can look into that and find out.
Perfect. Stephen asked, the pricing page shows direct pricing and MSP options. Are we lower than those direct prices? I hope. Also, if we run through PAX 8, are prices comparable to direct through DNSFilter?
Yes, they are a little bit cheaper than the website. And if you go through PAX 8, it is the same sort of discounts that you would get if you went with us directly. There are some licensing limitations with PAX 8. So I think you have to go into the pro license. There's not a basic license option for your clients. That would be the biggest caveat.
Perfect. Tim, I think, is going to like the answer to this one. How much maintenance tweaking is needed to use DNSFilter? I'm looking for a very low maintenance DNSFilter, as in set it and forget
I'll actually take this one if you guys don't mind. My previous company, I actually worked at an MSP that used DNSFilter, and it was one of those products where it was part of our stack. We would implement it, and we'd forget about it almost because we don't have to do anything after we set it up with the roaming client or the forwarders. We set it up, maybe go in and look at some reports afterwards, but it just would work. That's the fantastic thing about our product that we've seen and that our customers have for the most part seen.
The late Ron Popeil is smiling down upon us for our set it, forget it ways.
Right. Logan asks, you mentioned that if DOH is used on a client, you hijack those DNS queries. I see how that works with UDP 53, but how exactly do you do it for encrypted DNS protocols?
I think that's a great question. I think we've kind of touched on that already. I want to make sure that we give that the right care and attention it needs. Feel free to follow up with us after this webinar, Logan. Just, in the interest of time, with 13 minutes left, I wouldn't want to dive too deeply into the intricacies of that. So feel free to follow up. We'll be sending a follow-up after this webinar today.
In a shared environment such as RDS, can users on the RDS server have different policies?
So we kind of touched on this with the relay and the roaming client compatibility. There's going to be implications to this. I think in general, what's going to happen is in an RDS environment, it's going to take whoever logged into the system most recently and apply that policy. That's currently something we're looking at as a product enhancement going forward into 2024.
Perfect. Mark asks, Umbrella does not log on-premises DNS queries for systems in the same internal domain. Does DNSFilter log internal in-network DNS queries like the DNS running on Active Directory domain controllers?
No, we only are tracking the requests that are traversing our resolvers. So in an Active Directory situation, that's still a primary DNS for any on-premise devices that are logging into that environment. So any internal DNS is actually going to happen at that box versus anything that comes to us. Well, then that hits our query processors like, aha, there's a DNS query. So we're going to see, external DNS queries only.
Great. Is there a list of SIM DNSFilter integrate with?
Definitely, it's listed on our portal, but just for quick reference, any Amazon S3, Splunk, or any SIM that uses an HTTP event collector, those will work. And then we have specific SIM integrations with Sumo Logic, and then
Humio.
What was the other one? It's Humio. Thank you.
I reposted the link to our article about that actually in the chat. It was actually posted
Awesome.
before by
Thank you,
whoever
Jacob.
Sabrina is, but I'll take the credit for it as well.
Do we have any nice reports to send to clients? Oh, we got tons of them. So we have reporting insights, but I think Data Explorer is going to be right up your alley. You can filter your results down to user specific, what a specific user is doing. You can pick your duration of what you're reporting on, last 24 hours, a week, a month, and then you can actually export that out to a PDF. and it's a nice presentable sort of format. So you're not spending a lot of time reworking this report to make it presentable to a client. You can take it directly from the portal and give it to your client. We do also have scheduled reporting as well. Good.
Yeah, and that one's great because that's a 30-day look back every time it sends out, and it's like the Michael Scott explained it to me like I'm 5 of like what's going on inside this, plumbing of the internet. So really, really good stuff there.
Right. Who supports the product if we buy through Pax8?
So Pax8 would be your first line of support, and then they would loop our team in as needed. They get pretty much almost like a dedicated tier 2 guy that answers any questions that the Pax8 support team has.
Then what's the average user pricing for MSP providers?
Varies based on the number of users that you're protecting. We can certainly help you explore that with one of our account execs who'd be more than happy to take a look at your use case, how many endpoints you're protecting, and then work up some really good pricing, especially given the current state of the market.
Okay. Greg is asking, can we get a recording of the presentation? I can answer this one. Yes, you will get a recording probably within the next 2 hours once we end. Pat, will there be promo pricing for a period to incentivize moving from Umbrella?
I mean,
yeah, we've been making the terms variable.
Yeah, we'd love taking clients from Umbrella. So, definitely talk to us when you're talking to one of our AEs, and we can make something happen for you.
Right. And then is there an advantage to buying through Pax8, such as billing integration with ConnectWise PSA?
So Pax8 doesn't have a specific billing integration with us, so you wouldn't really be gaining any integrations going with Pax8, but you can order it from the marketplace. It's all in one single pane of glass, so that it makes your life easier if you're already buying into Pax8 and have several products with Pax8, then you can just basically stack another one on. That's the real advantage of partnering with Pax8. That you get the same sort of great DNS filter, but it's just integrated for the billing purposes in the Pax8 marketplace.
I think that's just about all of the questions that we've gotten so far. I do want to share really fast. We actually have a comparison PDF specifically about Cisco Umbrella and DNSFilter head to head. So I'm going to share that down in the left corner that you can download as well. Let's see. Oh, it looks like we've got another
I just answered it
question
for him in the
about gaming.
chat. There is a gaming category, and it constantly evolves as we add more and more content servers. I recently went to war with the Just Dance game, just trying to pick apart all the different content servers that Ubisoft has for those. But we try our best to keep that updated. So there's a dedicated category for that one.
Perfect. And then we have, how many content filtering categories does DNSFilter have?
39, yep.
39.
And then we also have 9 threat categories on top of that, right?
That's right.
All right. And then what is the length of the typical contract? Am I forced into 3 years?
Nobody's forcing you to do anything, Dave. If you want to go month to month with us, you can go month to month with us. If you want to do a year, that's even better. You're going to get a little better preferential pricing. 3 years, we'll knock it out of the park for you for pricing though. So let's just work with what you're most comfortable with. But I think, most importantly, get in the product, try it out, see how it really compares, in your environment to Cisco Umbrella, and we can, go from there and get you a good deal.
Perfect. All right. Any closing comments from any of these presenters?
Somebody said to say hi to Patrick Hellman. I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
And yes, there will be a recording of this. And the follow-up email from Corey will have all that information in it. So you can rewatch this at your leisure. And
Looks like we got one more question. This will probably be the last one we answer. Client agent, oh, let me put it live. Client agent support for all operating systems and what versions?
So we got Mac, we got Windows, we've got iOS and Android and Chromebook. That's the extent of our roaming client specifically. Our relay runs on a few other different operating systems. For instance, I mean, I've got an ARM version 32-bit running on a 12-year-old Raspberry Pi on my desk. So, you know, really, there's no limit to where that thing can run. But in terms of the actual packaged roaming client, that's specifically Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, and Chrome.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We are going to debate after the presentation ends to pick a winner for the best question, and I'll be reaching out to email you and get your information so I can mail that card to you, and hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Corey.
everybody.
Thanks for joining.
All right, bye everybody.
Take care.